Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books. This video is a fun video. It is a book haul. Everybody loves a good book haul, and I think this is a good book haul. It's not the result of a single trip to the bookstore. It is the result of several trips to several bookstores. And in particular, it includes a week where I went a little bit on the loose. I was on holiday in Stratford, and that meant that I went through Toronto, and while in Stratford there are also bookstores in Stratford and near Stratford, so I did visit quite a few bookshops on my way there and on my way back, and this book haul is mainly the result of that. But there's also a couple of other books that I acquired before going on my trip to Stratford. So this is the total, I think, of all the books that I bought in August and September, so it's like a couple of months. And I say bought. The first book I'm going to start with, it's not something that I bought, it was a gift. And there's a bookmark in it because I've started reading it. And as you're going to see, several of these books I've started to read. Some of them I already finished, but I'm not going to make a wrap up in this video. This is just going to be a haul. Well, I may give a bit of an opinion quickly, but it's not going to be a detailed reaction to a book. So the first one I'm going to start with. Oh, and also in the video I sort of made piles of all the books, and they are somewhat grouped by genre. So if you don't like nonfiction, then you can move on to fiction or romance, or I'm going to try to leave timestamps, but I'm not very good at editing videos at the moment, so there might not be timestamps in the description box. I'll see. So the first book I'm going to start with, as I said, is a gift. It's from my brother who went to the UK. He did not visit Stratford, England, but he did visit a bookshop in England. Well, several ones. He sent me gorgeous pictures of bookshops in London and in other places where he stopped. And he bought this. So Bibliomaniac is the story of the author. It's a memoir. During the pandemic, the author was feeling a little bit restless, and he was supposed to go on a tour with Professor Brian Cox. The tour was cancelled, so he decided to, because of the pandemic and so he decided to go somewhat on a personal tour of different bookstores, and he would also give conferences in the different bookstores. So he takes us with him to the various bookstores. He talks about the books that he finds and the books that he wants to buy, or the books that he has already bought from that bookstore in a previous trip. And there's a sentence in there that so well embodies the result of what you're going to see in the video afterwards. It is on page 80, and it says, "I never knew this book existed until Jeff placed it before me, and it was instantaneously necessary." And I feel like that with all of the books that I bought. Most of them I did not know they existed before I saw them in the bookstore, or if I knew they existed, I was not really caring about them. I was not going to the bookstore to buy that book specifically. But when I saw them in the bookstore, they became necessary. So that's the preamble to this book haul with the first book that I acquired. But this one I didn't pay anything, it was a gift. So thank you, my brother, for giving me this. This is super fun, and I'm having fun reading this. I am at page 122. Okay, logistics is going to be a bit of a problem. So I'm going to start with the nonfiction. Most of the books I bought in used bookstores or at discount prices. There's one or two exceptions, I'm going to mention them. And there's a bit of a theme in my nonfiction. You'll realize it after 3 books, I think. So here, Bitter Lemon of Cyprus by Lawrence Durrell. So this is a memoir of the years the author spent in Cyprus. It was at the end of the 1950s, and it was a time that was, I'm going to say, not easy for the island. I've never read anything about Cyprus. Way back at the beginning of the year, I said that I wanted to read one nonfiction book about, or concerning every country in the world, plus places that are not necessarily countries. And I've never read anything about Cyprus in my entire life, so I want to read this. So it's a bit of part of that world tour that I intend to make very, very slowly, like visiting 5 new places per year. So that's a candidate. And then I found A Time of Gifts by Patrick Leigh Fermor. And the second book, which is not in the same collection, same edition, but it's the sequel, Between the Woods and the Water, again by Patrick Leigh Fermor. I found both of them in a used bookstore in Toronto, and even though they were not like part of the same edition, so this is the New York Review of Books, and this is I don't know, John Murray. Okay, so that's a UK book. Oh, johnmurray.co.uk. Okay, that one's a UK book, and that one's an American book. And yeah, so after 3 books, you can see there's a bit of travel in there. And in the nonfiction, you'll see quite a bit of it. You'll see quite a bit of it. The next book, Rome by Robert Hughes. Now this is A Cultural, Visual, and Personal History. That's one of the books I wasn't sure I really wanted to read it. I don't know how inspiring I felt by the Dust Jacket. However, I found this at a used bookstore, and I very much felt that I would regret it if I did not buy it. So it was $10 for a book in perfect condition. If it has been read, it doesn't show at all. There's not a single pencil mark in it. There's not a single folded corner of a page. It's just in perfect condition. So I felt like I would regret if I didn't buy it. So I bought it because it's important not to have regrets in life. And then there's one of the exceptions, a book that I bought new, and it's an expensive book, and it's not something that you see very often on my channel. It's a new release in hardcover that I paid full price. So this is I Heard There Was a Secret Chord, and it is by Daniel J. Levitin, that you may know from his previous book, which is Your Brain on Music. And this is a bit in the same vein. So the author is a professor at McGill University, and he specializes in the brain, so in neuroscience, but in relation with music. And the reason why I bought the book is that while I was driving towards Toronto, I heard an interview on CBC Radio with the author, and the book just sounded wonderful and amazing, and I wanted to read it. And as soon as I got to Toronto, I found a bookstore, and I found the book, and I bought it. So I better read it before it comes out in paperback, otherwise I'll regret it. Then continuing with the nonfiction books, the other ones, oh well, there's another new one. This one is a souvenir. So this is the Thompson collection at the Art Gallery of Ontario, and it is Canadian art. So it's a book about Canadian art, and it is sort of a souvenir book of my visit at the Art Gallery of Ontario. I'll go like this. See, pictures, plenty of pictures and of Canadian art, because it was really what I preferred in the museum. That's what struck me the most. In particular, this painting. I loved this painting. It is by Harris. Oh, and one's in the back. And it's a souvenir. There's also a lot of writing, so there's something to read too, but there's a lot to look at. And I'm not going to wait until the next art readathon to read it. I want to read it before. Then I bought a history book, I guess. This is Olympia, Paris in the Age of Manet, by Otto Friedrich. Friedrich. And it is, I would say, a cultural history. So it's part cultural history, part biography, part history. Oh, there's a bit of the back cover is a bit dirty. The various name dropping in the on the cover, the flap of the cover. Napoleon III, Empress Eugenie, Wagner, Flaubert, Bismarck, Offenbach, Proust, Degas, Haussmann, Zola, Monet, Victor Hugo, Maximilian in Mexico. Oh yes, sorry. Manet painted the famous painting that we can see here, the execution of Maximilian, even though it's obviously not a historical painting in the sense that it's not meant to represent what actually happened, but it's a very famous painting. So it's a bit about Manet, it's a bit about his muse, and it's a lot about Paris. That's what I understand. And then another travel book. We are back to travel books. So this is A Serpent in Paradise by Dia Burkett. Dia, or Dee, I think her full name is Deborah. That's what she says in the book. How do I know that? I've read the book. As you can see, I've read the book. And if I put it like this, you can see that most of the little papers are at the end. I did not like the book. I think that this is worthy of a independent review, or at least of a review in a video that is about reviews and not just in a book haul. But that book left a very bitter taste in my mouth. What is it about? It is about the island of Pitcairn, where the mutineers of the Bounty decided to settle with Polynesian women and Polynesian men. And the people living on the island, it's a teeny tiny island of 1 mile by 1.5 mile, basically. And there are still about 50 people living there. Well, today I don't know. This book is from 1995 or 1997. 1997. So it's already 25 years old, almost 30 years old, and things have changed. Yeah, I'll talk about it in the review. But at the time, there were about 50 people living there, and it's a very close society. It's very isolated. It's an island in the middle of the Pacific. Well, not the middle, the South Pacific. And yeah, I have things to say about that book. And then a book that I'm currently reading, I am at page 124, and so far this one is absolutely wonderful. It is Seasons in Basilicata by David Yeadon, and it's a travel book. So the author decides to live for a few months in Basilicata, which is the southern tip of Italy. Not the southern tip, but like the sole backwards. That is the heel, that is the toe of the boot that we don't really see because the map is a bit slanted, and that is that's the toe. Oh, that's why we don't see it. I'm not showing it. And that is Basilicata in the middle. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, so far it's excellent. And also there's a lot of works of art, because the author is also somebody who draws and paints. So the text is peppered with art. I'm going to find something else, like the views like this. So it's really great. So I had very much travel in my mind, I guess, when I was traveling. And then still in nonfiction, but not for very long, because we are transitioning towards plays and poetry. So still in nonfiction, as I said, I went to Stratford, Ontario, which is famous for its Shakespeare Festival. So I bought a little something about Shakespeare. This is A Year in the Life of William Shakespeare, 1599, by James Shapiro. And if I remember correctly, this book won the Baillie Gifford Prize. Was it last year or 2 years ago? That was the prize of prize, because it was the 25th anniversary of the Baillie Gifford Prize, which is a prize in the UK that celebrates nonfiction. And they decided to make a list of among the winners of the Baillie Gifford. They decided to make a long list, a short list, and then a winner of the prize of prizes. And it was, I believe, this book that won. I know it was this author and his book about Shakespeare. I don't remember if it's 1599 or if it was The Year of Lear, which is 1609. I think it's 10 years later. It's one of the two. I think it's this one. And as I said, Shakespeare, well, I had to buy a copy of one of the plays that I went to see, Cymbeline. So I went to see Cymbeline. So I don't know if it counts as the book being already read. I've attended the play, but I haven't read the book. So I haven't read all the introduction material, because this is an Oxford World's Classic, and for Shakespeare, they have a lot of introductory material, and they have an appendix. Okay, an appendix. I had no, ooh, with sheet music. Okay, with sheet music and a lot of footnotes and all of that. And it was a great play. I was not expecting much from Cymbeline, because it seemed to be a bit all over the place as a play. There was love stories and political stories and revenge stories but a bit all over the place. So I was not expecting much, but it was really, really great. I think it was my favorite of the three Shakespeare. I think it was my favorite, so I really like that one. And the other two Shakespeare that I saw were Twelfth Night, which I already had a copy of that one, and Romeo and Juliet, which also I already had a copy of that one. However, I bought a different copy of Romeo and Juliet. I bought the stick figure version. So the author is Maya Gosling, Maya L. Gosling, and her website is goodticklebrain.com. So if you want to order her books, you can see the price there. I keep the prices, the tags on my books. So if you want to order things, she has a lot of wonderful stuff. Like you can see here a bit of the publicity. She has a lot of wonderful stuff, and it's a stick figure version of Romeo and Juliet, scene by scene. Nothing is missing, so it's all there. And sometimes there's a bit of explanation, and it's just a lot of fun. It's really funny. Is it the first year that I went to Stratford? Well, not the first year, but one of the first years I went there. It's 2 years ago. It's not the first year I went there. It's the first year that I went there after I had started my BookTube channel. When I was in Toronto, I found bargain price copies of Gilgamesh. There was the two versions. One was Stephen Mitchell, and the other one was I forgot his name, Herbert something or something Herbert. Anyway, and I read that first one that I now cannot remember, and I just loved Gilgamesh. And the year after that, I bought the version translated by David Ferry, so that was last year. Earlier this year, I bought the translation by Sophus Heller, and now I have found again another translation of Gilgamesh. So this is the Epic of Gilgamesh, so that's my 6th copy of Gilgamesh, and this one is special because it's the only one that I have that is not in verse, it is in prose. So that's going to be interesting. There's an introduction, and I'm curious to see, first things first, did the author, the modern author, directly read the original, or did he, I'm going to assume it's a he, based his version on other scholarly translations? Because the translation that I read earlier this year by Sophus Heller, he translated directly from the original cuneiform tablets. I doubt it. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be an intermediary in the middle. But nevertheless, I'm going to read that, and I'm trying to find who is the writer. N.K. Sandars, Sandars. Studied soon after the war with Professor Gordon Childe at the Institute of Archaeology, University of London, took the diploma at the Institute. She has traveled. Oh, it's a woman. Apologies, it's a woman. So the translator is a woman. So an English version with an introduction by N.K. Sandars. And apparently N.K. is short for a feminine name. I didn't know that. Okay, well, anyway. So that's the other book that I bought at full price, which was $20.99 Canadian. So that one is not outrageously expensive, and it's going to be a candidate for perpetual rereading. So it's not expensive at all. And I'm always happy to extend my collection of Gilgamesh versions. And I always somewhat feel a bit poetic when I go to Stratford. Whether I actually read the poetry books that I acquire on my trips is a different story. But now, this time I bought the Penguin Book of the Sonnet. 500 years of a classic tradition in English. And as you can see, it is it is a bargain book, because there's a dot underneath, and I bought that one in Stratford at the Fanfare Books. And it's just a bunch of sonnets. A lot of sonnets written in English, starting from the earliest sonnets which were written. The earliest author is Sir Thomas Wyatt, born somewhat approximately in 1503 and died in 1542, so dating from the 16th century. And the youngest poet to feature in this book is, give me a second. It is Jason Schneiderman, who was born in 1976 and was not dead yet at the printing of the book. So I hope he's still doing fine. So that's a book of English sonnets, and I have nothing else to say about it. I have read a couple, so that's not the type of book that I'm going to read from cover to cover. I'm pretty sure that I'm not. I'm just going to pick around here and there. Perhaps one day I'll decide to read it from cover to cover. But I think just dabbling a little bit here and there. I like to go to poetry like this because I'm not I'm not versed enough in poetry to really appreciate pages after page after page after page of poetry. So it's just a little bite once in a while, read a poem. And I'm wondering, maybe I should learn some of them by heart. Perhaps if I spent enough time with a poem to know it by heart, I would learn to like it more. And not just like it more, but understand more how it works, or at least get a feeling of how it works. So it's a maybe. And now I will be moving on to fiction, and I'm going to start with general fiction, so not any particular genre. A Canadian classic, well, I suppose I'm going to start with classics, Sunshine Sketches of a Little Town by Stephen Leacock, and this one comes with illustrations by Wesley W. Bates. So this book will be a reread for me. So again, there's a bookmark in it. I've started reading it. I've read... It's a bit like short stories. It's not quite the Sunshine Sketches, so they're kind of, each chapter is about a particular inhabitant of the town. However, the characters that you see in the previous story will reappear in the following story, so it's not the way I remember it. So it's a long time ago that I read this, but it's not necessarily a continuous novel where there's a plot from beginning to end, but each character sort of gets the spotlight in one story and you see them interact in the others. So yeah, it's a beautiful book, and with drawings, not on every page, but let me try to find you one to show you. So like this, or like this. So yeah, with illustrations, and yeah, not subtly, this is a bargain book that I found at BMV Book in Toronto. A book that I showed you in my previous video that I bought in August, the Le Don Paisible, or in English, Quiet Flows the Dawn, or the Quiet Dawn. I am at page 214. That's less than 20% of the book. There is 1,376 pages of text. I'm not even including the documents at the end. So it's a big book. And I'm reading it, and so far it's really good. I've read 200 pages. It doesn't feel like 200 pages. It feels like a lot less. So it's a good sign. It's very, very good. I also bought a little something for Victober. However, I'm not sure I'm going to read it in October, because I've started the other big one. It is The Warden by Anthony Trollope. Last year or 2 years ago, when I went to Stratford, I had found a copy in good condition of Barchester Towers by Anthony Trollope. And at the time, I didn't know that it was the second in the series. So this time I decided to buy the first one in the series. It's just 200 and something pages, so it's not very long. I could manage to squeeze it in between two parts, two sections of Quiet Flows the Dawn. And then a couple of books that I also showed in my previous video, but I'm going to include them in the book haul. This is Parade's End by Ford Madox Ford, and The Forsyte Saga by John Galsworthy. Big sagas from early 20th century. I'll read them when I get to them. So yeah. This one that I bought in a used bookstore, well, I all bought them in used bookstores. So for all the fiction, well, except for the Sunshine Sketches, which is it's a new book, but it's in the bargain section. The other ones are all used. So this is Elsewhere in the Land of Paradise by Jim Paul. Did I buy it because of the parrot on the cover? Yes, yes, I bought the book because of the cover, but also a little bit because of what was written inside. It says that the author has created a tender, eccentric romance. So I am expecting a feel-good book about a bird, I guess, and I don't know, something feel-good. So that's what I'm expecting from the book. I don't want to know too much, because sometimes if I know too much, some surprises go away. And yeah, so it's just, I want a feel-good book. And then another bargain book, it is The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. So this is about, this is fan fiction, am I allowed to call it that? It is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice that is focusing on the middle sister, Mary Bennet, who is the bookish sister, the one who keeps playing the piano, practicing and trying to be a very accomplished young lady, because she's considered to be a lot less pretty than her other sisters. So the only way that she can stand out among the five sisters is to be the most accomplished one, and she doesn't necessarily succeed, but she loves to read, and so this is her story according to the author. So I know a lot of people read it. It was very popular on BookTube a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago when it came out. When did it come out? How old are you, little book? From 2020, so it's already 4 years old. So it made a splash when it came out. It's supposed to be a very good retelling of Pride and Prejudice, so I'm kind of expecting a lot, but at the same time, because I'm always disappointed by retellings of Jane Austen, I'm not expecting a lot, so I suppose I'm neutral. I'm open-minded to liking the book or not liking the book. And now my logistics has to change, so I will cut a little bit and I'll be back in a second. Not even a second for you. And now we are moving on to genre fiction, a little bit of mystery and a lot of romance, basically all Regency romance. So mystery, I found this, An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good, and I've read that one and it was really good. I had heard great things about this book. I don't remember exactly from which channel. I remember it came from Britain, so well, the book itself is from Sweden, so it's translated from Swedish. But I remember the recommendations. They were either from Jack from Spread Book Joy, or Gemma from Gem of Books, or Alice from Alice in the Giant Bookshelf. I'm associating this book with these three ladies, so perhaps all of them recommended it at some point. But yeah, it says this was a lot of fun. It's a collection of short stories about an elderly lady. She is 88 years old, and she has lived a very peaceful life. And then suddenly things are starting to happen around her that she doesn't like. There are wrongs to be righted, and she turns to violence to right the wrongs. And it's fun. Yeah, it's fun. It's about somebody who kills people and doesn't really get caught. So it's not really a mystery. We know exactly that she does. We know that the elderly lady did it, but it's fun to read about it nevertheless. It's funny, and people die, and it's funny. It's sad to say, but that's what it is. And then I also bought two installments of the Brother Catfile series, which is I think it's my favorite mystery at the moment. So this is One Corpse Too Many. It's book number 2 in the series, and I haven't read it because I'm not reading it in order. I'm almost reading it in order, but it just happened like that. So I read the first one in the series, and I really loved it. And then I went book shopping at a used bookstore, and I found 2 volumes of an omnibus collection, volume 2 and volume 3, and there were 3 mysteries per book. So I ended up reading 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in order, and now I am out of Brother Catfile. So I have now number 2, and this one is 14, number 14. It is The Hermit of Ayton Forest. Ayton, Eton, I don't know how to pronounce that. Yeah, that's English. We never know how to pronounce the proper names. A Medieval Whodunit by Ellis Peters. And that is the end of the mysteries. All the rest is romance, and there's quite a little bit of it. Some of it I've already read because it's like candy. I'm going to start with the ones that I've already read. Here we have A Most Unlikely Duke by Sophie Barnes, and as you can see, the model on the cover was chosen strictly for his personality. This is a story of a man who grew up in the docks in London, and he has 2 sisters, and among other things, he boxes to earn a living, and he suddenly finds himself inheriting a dukedom. So hilarity ensues, I guess. No, it's not hilarity, but a love story ensues, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And then the other three are all part of a series, the Notorious Gentleman series. So we have, and it is by Susan Enoch, which I have to say is my discovery of the year. She is not a new author, so these books are from 2008, 2009, but I just discovered the author this year, and I really, really like her work. So this is After the Kiss. This is Before the Scandal, and it's not just the characters who want to get naked. Apparently the book also wants to get naked. Oh, there's a step back. I forgot to show you the step back in the other one. So there is a step back. There you go. And the other one, I finished reading it just this morning, and it is Always a Scoundrel. And the step back is here. Like this. And in this book, I thought the love story was okay. The villain in this book is one of the most villainous villain that I've ever read in a romance. He's scary. He is terrifying as a villain, and I kind of loved it. I don't like the guy, but he gets what he deserves at the end, and perhaps even more. Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but he gets his comeuppance. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to try to put the book back in its cover, because books shouldn't go about naked. I'm just going to glue the cover back on. It's just unglued. It's not broken. It's just the glue that dried, and I'm just going to add some glue and just stick it together. A great find, a Georgette Heyer omnibus. I didn't even know they existed. So there are three romance in this book. They are Pharaoh's Daughter, The Corinthian, and The Nonsuch. And I have about a dozen Georgette Heyer, or at least 10. And generally, when I buy an omnibus of an author that I already have, that I already like, and that I have several of their books, chances are there will be one or two in the omnibus that I have already read, or that I already have. In this case, no. These are 3 books that I don't have, that I've never read. So it's all new. So it's just wonderful. Serendipity. My only thing is that there are spots on the top of that book, and I really hope that it's tea and that it's not mold. So I'm watching them very closely to make sure that it doesn't change, and I'm keeping the book a bit apart of the other ones, just to make sure. But it doesn't smell anything, so I really think it's just a stain of like a tea or coffee stain or something. Yeah, because I found it in a basement in the bookstore. What's the bookstore? Newell and Sellers in Toronto. So the same bookstore where I found the 2 Patrick Leigh Fermor books. So that's where I found it. And then it's a bunch of romance that I haven't read yet. So there is A Beginner's Guide to Rakes by Susan Enoch, because apparently I cannot get enough of her. One Dance with the Duke by Tessa Dare. I've read one Tessa Dare before, and it was really good, so I'm looking forward to more. Project Duchess by Sabrina Jeffries, and this one is a zebra historical romance. It's a Regency again. Well, I think it's a Regency. And I don't know if I've read Sabrina Jeffries before. I may have. I'm not entirely sure. The Runaway Heiress by Brenda Hyatt. I assume it's rather sexy, because yeah, that dress is falling down. And I've never read anything by this author, so this is a new to me author, and I'm taking a chance because the book was $3, so I'm not taking a big chance. And this is an author that I like, the only non-Regency romance. This is The Cliff House by Rayanne Thayne. So this is a contemporary romance set somewhere in the United States. Does it say where? Doesn't say where. On the coast somewhere, East Coast, West Coast, Southern Coast, I don't know, I don't care. I like Rayanne Thayne because there's not a lot of sexy scenes, very little of it. It happens behind closed doors, if it happens at all. But it's very, very atmospheric, I would like to say. She gets to me. It's very sentimental, I guess. And yeah, it resonates well with me. Her writing resonates with me. Her characters resonate with me. So I like it. And that's the last book of my book haul. So so after all of that, so I didn't count them. I think it's 30 something. I think it's 30 something book. I think it was 34. I did count them. I think it was 34. I counted them when I came back, and that was already a couple of weeks ago. So so I think it's 34 books that I acquired in the last couple of months, and of them I think only 2 were acquired in August. All the other ones were from September. My resolution is to read, not all of them, because it's not a balanced diet in the sense that all these books are in English and I need to read in French. I cannot just read in English. At some point my brain doesn't want to do that anymore. No, I say one of them was in French. The biggest one was in French. So there's that one that is in French. But nevertheless, I need a mix of things. But I want to read. I want to go on a book buying diet because I cannot keep buying more books than I read. So I want to read 17 books. So that's half of what I have bought. So it doesn't need to be exactly these books. It needs to be 17 of books I haven't read. So the books there could count and other books could count. So I need to buy to read 17 of my own books before I'm allowed to buy another book. So it's a bit a read what you want challenge, but the challenge hasn't started yet. I'm starting it last week. I'm starting it 2 weeks ago. So far I am 4 books in, because in this video I've said, oh, I've already read this a few times, but for example, An Elderly Lady is Up to No Good, I read it basically on the day that I bought it, and that meant that the next day I bought something else, so it doesn't count. So only 4 books count so far. It is Serpent in Paradise and The Three Susan Enoch. So these 4 count for the challenge. So 4 books down, 13 books left. And if I finish it, Quiet Flows at Dawn counts for 1. It counts for 1 even if it's 1,400 pages. So anyway, that's what it is. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope you liked the books that I showed you. If you have anything else to say, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine!